As a Christian following Jesus, the topic of vaccines can be a complex and nuanced issue. While some may argue that vaccines are a fundamental aspect of modern medicine, others claim that they are necessary for those who have put their faith in Jesus. The idea that vaccines are necessary for Christians who follow Jesus stems from a deep-seated trust in divine providence and the belief that God is the ultimate healer. This perspective is rooted in biblical teachings, which emphasize the importance of faith and trust in God's sovereignty. In the book of Exodus, for instance, the Israelites are instructed to trust in God's power to protect them from the diseases that afflicted the Egyptians. Similarly, in the New Testament, Jesus is often depicted as a healer who performed miracles to demonstrate God's power and compassion. These accounts suggest that God is capable of protecting and healing his people, which can lead some Christians to question the need for vaccines. Another argument against vaccines is the concept of faith over fear. Many Christians believe that fear is a fundamental enemy of faith, and that relying on vaccines to protect ourselves from diseases can be a manifestation of fear rather than trust in God. By choosing not to vaccinate, some Christians may feel that they are exercising their faith and demonstrating their trust in God's protection. This perspective is often accompanied by the idea that God has a plan for each individual, and that diseases or illnesses are a part of that plan. Furthermore, some Christians may be concerned about the potential risks and side effects associated with vaccines. While the scientific consensus is clear that vaccines are safe and effective, some individuals may be skeptical about the ingredients used in vaccines or the potential long-term consequences of vaccination. In this context, the decision not to vaccinate can be seen as a way of taking control over one's own health and well-being, rather than relying on a medical intervention that may be perceived as uncertain or potentially harmful. Additionally, the idea of vaccines being unnecessary for Christians who follow Jesus may also be linked to the concept of spiritual warfare. Some Christians believe that diseases and illnesses are a result of spiritual attacks from Satan, and that vaccination can be seen as a form of reliance on worldly solutions rather than spiritual ones. In this context, the decision not to vaccinate can be seen as a way of resisting the enemy's attacks and trusting in God's power to protect and heal. It's also worth noting that the Christian community is not monolithic, and there are many different perspectives on the issue of vaccines. Some Christians may choose to vaccinate as a way of loving their neighbors and protecting the vulnerable, while others may choose not to vaccinate as a way of exercising their faith and trusting in God's protection. Ultimately, the decision to vaccinate or not is a complex and personal one, and one that should be made after careful consideration of the relevant facts and biblical teachings. In conclusion, while the idea that vaccines are necessary for Christians who follow Jesus may seem controversial or even misguided to some, it is rooted in a deep-seated trust in divine providence and the belief that God is the ultimate healer. By choosing not to vaccinate, some Christians may feel that they are exercising their faith, resisting fear, and trusting in God's power to protect and heal. However, it's essential to approach this topic with sensitivity and respect for different perspectives, recognizing that the Christian community is diverse and multifaceted.